This is Pete Moore on Halo Talks NYC. I have the pleasure of bringing Russ Meneve. He is going to be pivoting from a stand-up comedian and all-around great New Yorker into an entrepreneur in the Halo sector. He's going to be talking about prevention. We're going to be talking about making sure people stay safe. And he's got an innovative product that he developed based on his own personal experiences. So, Russ, welcome to your first Halo Talks.
Oh, Mike, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to this.
Awesome. So we connected through Catherine Martin, who's been a long-term fan of the Halo flag and a friend of the square. So we want to thank her first for connecting us. At first we, looking at new ideas and new startups, you kind of have to look at it at a pretty fine-tuned lens in order to figure out, where there's opportunity. And after watching the videos of what you developed, and we say every great business starts with a personal frustration that you're solving. Kind of walk us through your personal tragedy with your, on the weightlifting side and how you've kind of turned that into a solution.
Okay, well, a couple of years ago, I had a very devastating injury from a free weight bar out of control. Ended up tore my shoulder, had to get surgery. It's a year plus recovery, very difficult. In fact, it's so difficult that while you're in it, you don't see a pathway back to a full recovery. It's very, very upsetting, but finally I made it back. So I was so upset that there was really nothing on the market at all to prevent this that I said, you know what? I'm going to finish a product. No matter what way it goes, I'm going to make a great product and finish it. So what I have now is a device that no matter where you let go of a bar in any free weight lift, all of them, and that includes CrossFit, powerlifting, regular lifting, there's a laser running across the bar. You can let go of the bar. It'll stop that bar anywhere in the lift. And it's a device that can attach to all racks and machines. No new equipment needs to be purchased for a gym.
Yeah. So you've got it set up basically as, effectively a mechanical pulley system and then a laser, indicator, I guess. So, when you map this out as you were recovering on the shoulder side, obviously you don't have a background in this, but, a lot of companies are formed based on somebody with a great idea, and then they go and seek out, the technical or the engineering specialty to figure out what's possible,
Right.
And troubleshoot it from there. So talk about, a lot of entrepreneurs, there's a sequence to building a company, just like there's a blueprint for building a house.
Right.
So talk about some of the steps that you said, okay, in order for me to take it from A to B, and I got to go to Z, what were some of the first calls that you made?
Okay, so I have some very close friends that from MIT, and they were able to hook me up with two tremendous MIT PhD engineers in mechanical engineering. So we talked about this. We talked about this problem, what I wanted to do, and we got to work on it. And through several iterations, the course of a year and a half, we were able to come up with a really phenomenal product. The guys did a really, really, really great job. And it really can hold a lot of weight, up to like 1,000 pounds. Again, as I said, a laser actuator runs across the bar. So the lifter, there's no noticeable feel of anything other than the lift. It's just a very natural free weight bar that simply you open your hands and it'll stop that bar anywhere.
They say that in weightlifting, probably your last couple of reps are really kind of what changes you.
Okay.
So from a standpoint of, people that lift weights and don't have a spotter, somewhat, gross negligence in a public place if you're in a gym.
Okay.
If you're at home, you might not have your cell phone close enough to you to actually unpin yourself. So, as you started looking at, the size of the market, obviously there's hundreds of thousands of Olympic squat racks, whether it's bench pressing, whether it's, shoulder, extensions or, upright rows, how'd you start to think about, or how are you thinking about now penetrating the market? And, there's a cost to your product that's a hard cost, but there's also, a recurring revenue stream of maintaining lasers and maintaining centralized support to know like, hey, we got some issues here going on. Laser's been triggered X amount of time. Maybe there's something wrong with that machine.
Right. Okay. So the market is enormous. So there's about 200,000 gyms around the world with racks and benches and everything. The home gyms, there's the school gyms, there's physical therapy centers, apartment buildings, hotels. It goes on and on. And again, as I said, this could be the beauty of this is that no new equipment needs to be purchased. It can be easily placed on, fixed on, very quickly. The bar slipped in with the laser actuator, and it's ready to go. On top of that, there is so it'll be an upfront cost with that, and then there is recurring revenue as far as a maintenance plan, and we can also put chips into this product, so it can do all of the sports analytics, which is the big thing now. So it's velocity-based training, it's your measurements, all these things, and through an app, a very low-cost app, all of those metrics can be displayed and recorded. And that'll be a low cost, ongoing, recurring fee for that.
Now I don't know the amount of claims on behalf of an individual health club when somebody says, "Hey, I hurt myself," inside the club, lifting weights. It's a pretty frequent, nuisance claim. Obviously, a lot of people are self-directed, so you're self-directed, but somehow you're not self-insured. Where you actually blame the club or blame the site or blame the municipality, on trying to do a 400-pound Olympic squat when you probably should be doing 200-pound Olympic squats. So, talk a little bit about how you believe this potentially, one, reduces accidents, two, potentially lowers the insurance claims or costs. And also, from a standpoint of insurance companies, they might say, hey, look, you actually have to have this device, whatever the ultimate name is. And I'll give you as a health club operator or municipality a lower, insurance premium because it's just like, the equivalent of wearing a seatbelt. So
That's right.
talk a little bit about how you're thinking about the positioning of the product and how many stakeholders, if you will, this basically supports.
Well, it is perfectly analogous with the seatbelt. It's one of those things where we can look back on it and it's so obvious, if you went on YouTube, you would spend the rest of your life trying to get through all the gym fails and the accidents that happen. And it's with benching, with over the head, every lift. Not only that, when I am in the gym, I do see accidents. I do see drops. In fact, I was showing it to a gym owner. He was letting me go around, look at the gym. And as I'm in there with him, a guy goes down with the squat bar. I'm like, you see this? On top of that, it's not just that. It's every time I am at the gym, I do see that final rep struggle, and the guy barely gets it on the rack. That's every time I go. And then I show him the video of what I've created. And I said, would you use this? And I get absolutely every single time I show it to him. And I know that from years of me going to the gym, being by myself, if I had that I would use it every time. I would never not use this, knowing that I could simply open my hands and the bar stops. I mean, it just seems so obvious to me. And especially if the people out there, whoever's had an injury like this, it's really, you just don't want it. You don't want it. Now, where else did you want to go with that? So, one more thing about the liability.
Sure.
So I spoke to a CEO of a company that's very experienced, and he said this could easily get to a point where the gyms have to have it. So if there is an accident, the people would say, with the guy, whoever would be the judge or whatever, would say, how come you didn't have this? I mean, why would you not have this? So it could ultimately be a requirement. I could see that happening very easily.
Yeah. As you've kind of gone through the last year, entrepreneurs at times, think they're making progress at the same time they think they might be, effectively on a treadmill. So what were some of the milestones that you've kind of said, okay, I'm making progress, whether it was from the patent office, whether it was from, an aha moment, maybe it was something that, you guys thought that you were troubleshooting, but it was a little harder to figure out how to actually, get it to that point of efficacy where, I could say, look, this laser is not going to, if it's blinded by something, like it's not, like there's nothing that's going to stop the safety component to this. So talk a little bit about, because entrepreneurs live on an island, and it's usually a pretty lonely island. So talk about some of the things that kind of stopped you and say, okay, I'm in the right direction. Like I'm actually, this thing's moving forward, not just kind of treading water.
Okay. Well, the initial design, which the tremendous engineer came up with, initially that was a big motivator. It was so great right away. We went through some iterations, some fails, went back to the drawing board. There was one issue with there was only one laser on the bar. So as the bar rotates in the lifter's hand, there was an issue with that. Because in different lifts, there's rotating of the bar. So we were able to solve that with multiple lasers on it. Ultimately, what was a great motivator through this very difficult path, as you described, was lifters coming to use it. And I actually sent David some videos of a CrossFit lifter commenting on it, and he was blown away by it. And I often see that response, that the lifters are like, wow, 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 this is great. Mark Henry, I met with, I don't know if you know him. he's like, he has tremendous Olympic records. I think he was the strongest man in the world at one point. And a lot of times I heard no brainer. So those things were very, very encouraging. Most of my time and money went into perfecting the prototype. It was very important to me that I made it as perfect as possible and great. So everyone that has seen it and used it in every demo, I get tremendous feedback. And that's really been the greatest motivator so far.
Gotcha. As you kind of take a look at the different areas that you could go into, and you and I have had some side conversations about this, you can go and talk to the equipment vendors that could either go back and say, okay, let me go and add this in as kind of like standard with my equipment going forward. Kind of like what we use an analogy, kind of like Microsoft, operating system went along with every IBM laptop, back in the day.
Yep.
Or, certain devices already come with, pre-installed apps or come with pre-installed pieces of technology you can turn on and off. So how do you think about, and obviously you and I are going to talk about this with Ganelin about how we, what's the right entry point? Where do you see kind of the biggest opportunity to kind of get some real traction? And, when do you think that you're ready to go to market with that?
Okay. So I think probably the biggest opportunity initially is chain gyms right off the bat. I also see a tremendous opportunity with high schools and colleges and pro teams and college teams. Again, I also see the home gym. I was injured in the home. So I know that, during the pandemic, so many people outfitted their homes. I think the stat is as high as about 60% of adults actually have gyms at the home and work out in the home. And what a great add-on. So many people have had accidents in the home alone, no spotter. And this is such a great device to have that can, again, total peace of mind while you're lifting and total safety.
As you take a look at the other pieces of equipment, the stopgap, if you will, between what you've developed and what's out there right now are typically like when you're going down a rack, they might have like other slots that you can, rack into. Obviously a lot of barbells and, related to chest press do not have that. So, as you kind of look at, either building a brand in the industry, you and I kicked around a couple of different names. You're an inventor at the same time, you want to be a technology provider. So give us some of the things that may have are going through your head about how you might be able to get that to market, because sometimes it's not the obvious choice that becomes the one. The laser, there's an inventor that is collecting royalties. There are companies in the auto industry that create parts and, they're not theirs. They're somebody else's. So give us some of that for the entrepreneurs thinking about going to market strategies.
Well, which part exactly? That there's an overlap with other elements of the device, or what?
Well, that there might be, ways that you can license the technology. There might be ways, hey, I'm going to build it. Hey, I'm going to go into these markets on my own. I'm going to get somebody else to go into these markets for me. Not that it's just decided, but I feel like it's interesting for, people that are selling products to think about and go get my product into Lululemon or Sephora, or Best Buy, or I can maybe go some of these alternative routes.
Yeah, well, again, as we've discussed in the past, I am brand new to this, I'll tell you. So all options are on the table. I keep moving forward, and it could be that we are actually manufacturing. And slowly building the business and getting into gyms and growing, or someone could come along and offer a large licensing deal and buy it outright. That's all on the table and possible, for sure. But the important thing is to keep moving, and kind of feel my way through the dark and do my best. I've learned a lot along the way. Again, as you said, it's a lonely journey. It's darker than people think. And it really had to be very, very patient. And your temperament is a big deal as you go through this. And I just keep moving it forward. I meet new people. I met you and David. And I'm sure that right person is going to come along and it's going to change the course of things. But the important thing really is to make the product as great as possible and keep moving, keep getting it out there, keep meeting new people.
Yeah. When we first started the discussion last week about this, you said, I've got some investors, but I kind of want to wait until I either fill the round before I bring it in. For educational purposes here, for other entrepreneurs, there's sometimes when you have what's called a rolling cap raise, which basically I'm going to take in money, and I'm going to cap it once I get to, let's say, $1 million. But if I'm going to get 100,000 in, I might say, wire that in. There are also entrepreneurs such as Russ that basically say, look, if I don't have the full $1 million, I don't think I'm going to be able to accomplish what I want to accomplish. So I don't want you to be kind of first money in and then no money ever out, because I didn't have the chance to actually, finish the play. So talk about why you feel like that in your gut. You're the kind of guy that I got to wait for it, versus other entrepreneurs might say, hey, look, I just got to keep this train running and I'll figure out a way at the end to fill the round.
That's interesting because, it's funny, Peter, as you take on something new like this, a tough challenge, you learn a lot about yourself, things you didn't really know about. So as we are discussing this, I just, as people were offering significant amount of money, I felt, again, this is something that was new to me that I learned about myself. I was very sensitive about their money, more than I thought I would be.
Right.
So it was important to me to say to them, look, let's get this to a point where the full amount is raised and there's a lot of encouragement, because it would kill me if what you described, money in, no money out. And I realized that about myself. And I kind of I may have lost money because I didn't close it, but that's okay. It was very important to me that I was sensitive about their money. So that's the reason.
So, as getting into any kind of sales, you got to knock down a couple wins. As you knock down those wins, or get a couple of brands and say, hey, I've got it in here, get a case study, maybe show here's our injury report from this quarter to the quarter after, my device is in there. Maybe some stories about people being able to make that last, couple of reps because they feel secure that they can do it, and therefore, they've accomplished higher, goals, that they've had on their end. You're coming into the game here kind of as a fresh entrepreneur. And I said to somebody on another call, who kind of flipped into a new industry, that it might benefit him that he wasn't from the industry, because he doesn't have a playbook that is kind of hearkened to or attached to this how you do things. So give us a couple of insights into maybe how you started this, and maybe there wasn't any blockades in place because this kind of was your first venture, and you're more of an adult than most entrepreneurs.
Well, I certainly was not jaded or anything from having a negative experience. So maybe that helped. I'm sure that I'm sure you've spoken to many entrepreneurs that have just scars and battle wounds. And I didn't have any of that. Now, that may have worked against me in some levels, being just bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and thinking everything was going to go perfectly. But in a sense, I think it did help, actually, because I think my temperament was really in a good place to manage these people and these engineers. And I was certainly very happy to watch the project move along. I really enjoyed the whole process very much. So I think that not having the experience was okay. I would prefer to have had some more experience. I have it now. There's things I would have done differently, but that's probably anybody on this journey. But really great. I mean, look, Jeff Bezos even said that you want to have that regret minimization in your life. You don't want to look back and say, oh, I wish I had tried that. And you never beat yourself up over the things that you did and failed. You'll beat yourself up over things that you never tried that wanted to.
Yeah.
So all of that factored in, it's really been overall a great journey.
Got it. So for the potential investors who are listening to this call, or potential, first adopters to try out the product, give us a sense of, we've got a provisional patent. So we assume that that's going to be protected. Do you have a number of prototypes?
Utilities in process also, just so you know, it's and that's going to be settled soon. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the timeline on? Let me get this product into clubs. Let me get it into a couple of showrooms. Let me start to commercialize that. So give us a timeline. Assume this podcast is end of summer 2023. Give us a couple of goalposts that people can say, okay, I'll hit you then, or I want to get in now.
Well, as the funding comes in, I think we could easily have 50 to 100 units out in clubs or gyms right away. I would say within less than 6 months, no problem, and then we could sort of go from there. And the product, I could see it being a hit right away. Particularly, again, as we discussed the gyms and everything. But I had a friend that was just in town, and he's a wrestling coach at a high school, and he goes, these high schools would eat it up once safety's involved. And there's 20,000 high schools in the country. It's such an enormous market, between as I said, the home gyms, the club gyms, the sports teams, physical therapy centers, Class A apartment buildings, hotels, even. It could take off dramatically, very easily. Yep. And especially since, gyms are in a very competitive environment when it comes to equipment and technology. So we could outfit a gym so fast. It could be a major safety and tech jump for a gym instantly without buying new equipment. Mm-hmm. It's a compact device that attaches right on in 5 minutes.
And then the last question, and we'll have a video up there so people can see how this works and how the technology locks in on the bar. What is it's not plugged into anything. Is it one of these long lasting, little mini and lithium batteries, and then it buzzes if it's on low battery? Like that seems to me like the only power related item on the list.
Right. Okay, so that's one of the beauties of these wonderful PhD MIT engineers. They did a tremendous job. So the battery lasts for months, and it's monitored. The life is extended through software controls. So there's a main battery that'll last. It'll go on and on and on. And the laser is charged off of the main battery through a USB cable as well. So there's no cords, no plugins, no wires.
That's great.
And it attaches that also attaches to the rack with a magnet.
Yeah. And then what's the weight of the entire device? Do you have that figured out yet, or an average?
I should have that, but it's probably 20 pounds total.
20 pounds. Yeah.
Something like that.
Easily shippable.
Shippable. And supports up to, we had about 800 pounds on it. Probably does 1,000. We'll have to go through extensive testing. But 800 pounds was no problem.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Russ, we're looking forward to the commercial release, helping you out, get into the right places. Obviously, anything we can do on the safety side in the Halo sector is super important. People have good experiences lifting weights and showing those results, go a long way. And people that get hurt in the process, it's probably 10x that in negative, commentary. So anything we could do to give people a safe landing spot and lifting spot and laser spot, we will we'll maneuver our way through it. So
okay, Peter, thank you so much. Peter, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure. David, thank you as well.